Hi, welcome to the DRH show, where I have wide-ranging conversations with interesting people. We talk about all things psychology, mental health, and wellness. Today, I'm joined by a psychologist, among other things. Shafaq, thanks for joining me.
Having me. Hi,
It's
Dennis. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Shafaq. And I know because we're doing this recording on a weekend. Thank you for spending some time with me. If you could just share to us your backstory, your trajectory in life, and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Of course. I personally have gone through various traumas in my life. I've experienced these highs and lows from all sorts of walks of life. But what I've always discovered is that I've always been drawn to behavioral science, to human behavior, which has just fascinated me, how people act in certain situations or when they're going through certain emotions, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And through that, I also learned languages just by listening, actually. And I projected that once I started speaking with clients now, then I was very good in that. I was very good in connecting to people. So my work drawn me to, I'm a former diplomat, I'm a former banker. I also worked in the hospitality industry, but I never really fit into that category because I've always been drawn to helping people. So suddenly I found myself in London 10 years ago, and I went into working in mental health, first as a linguist, and then went very quickly into a mediating situation between the consultant and the client, where I discovered that there were many problems in there. The consultants, as academic as they were, and I'm not representing all of them, were not able to connect to the person itself. And they may be able to label a condition or diagnose a condition, but they were not able to actually differentiate between cultural behavioral differences, diversity, why a certain condition of a person, their behavior is different than to someone else from a very different background. So all these things I was able to pick up very quickly. It was quite easy for me to do so, which I discovered. And because of my linguistic background, I was also able to understand cultural differences in their attitude, verbal and non-verbal attitude, posture, certain things which are quite normal in certain cultures. So I was able to engage in that. And as soon as I walked into a room, people were able to open up to me. They trusted me. And I thought that's a very privileged thing to have. And one day a psychotherapist who I was working alongside with for quite some time gave me a very lovely compliment and said, you should actually pursue that career full time. So she said to me, you should pursue psychology as a career and go ahead with that. Because I feel like you're not a third person in the room. You work as an extended arm for me. And this was a very beautiful compliment to have. So I pursued that career as a psychologist. I'm a graduate psychologist in the process of also applying for a PhD doctoral program. And yes, I'm just dedicated helping people, fulfilling their life, changing their perspective, empowering them, and making them understand their own mind. At the moment, I'm working with brain injury clients as well as private clients itself. I offer a lot of free counseling as I can. People do approach me a lot. I'm very new on social media to now brand my name as Psych Shafaq as well. So that's the story behind. I just love being able to help people and heal people, being empath.
It's a very dynamic story, and thank you for sharing that to us. I think we'll dig deeper in every aspect of your trajectory. And what I'd like to ask you first, out of the backstory that you just shared to us, because you both have background in psychology, and as we all know, psychology is really a diverse field. There's so many subfields within psychology. And what really intrigued me is when you mentioned that you're particularly drawn into neuroscience. Now that's really quite an exciting field, but if you could just kind of expand what is it about neuroscience that got you drawn into?
Of course. I mean, I always love the medical element of, behavior, of psychology itself. Neuroscience is something which is connected to our attitudes. It's connected to everything what we project. It's connected to everything what we do, the thought process, the mind, how we actually execute, which is our behavior, the actual entire thread of process which we're doing. So from the time we're looking at a thing, we're analyzing a thing, we're then acting towards it. That's what neuroscience is. And when you're suffering with various conditions such as stroke patients, or someone who suffered a brain injury, or even mental health illnesses, any kind of condition, stress, how do you react to that? It all derives from your brain. It all derives how you perceive things and how you move forward. The reason why I'm so interested in neuroscience itself is because I'm very much solution focused, and I'm aware that a lot of people are not capable of doing so because they focus on the problem rather than the actual solution to analyze things. When I get into a situation, I can say that because I have gone through various traumatic experiences where I found myself, okay, yes, I do grieve as well. I have a lot of emotions. I'm very, very passionate. But at the same time, when I'm in a threat situation, whatever that might be, I stand there, I analyze the situation, and then I'll try to find solutions for that. I think, okay, what is this about? What can I do about it? And how can I make it change? How can I change it for another person? How can I change it for myself? And that's where neuroscience comes about. Our brains are wired. I always describe it like a computer, where the hardware, without fuel, we cannot work. So all these wiring inside there, these arteries, these veins, the mind itself, how it's connected to the synapses and neurons and the energy itself. As long as we don't put the fuel inside, which is our thought process, ultimately, where the blood runs through the veins, the arteries, the cerebral cortex, and then actually powers and connects one to another with this electricity and this kind of process, we are not able to function. We cannot form one memory to another, connect one behavior to another. And because I'm so much focused on how do I find a solution, how do I make this happen? If I can't do a solution A, then I focus on solution B, C, D. That's just how I just work. That is why I'm so excited about neuroscience itself. You just have to look at stroke patients, how they're able actually to regain their consciousness, their cognitive abilities. It's all proven. It's all derived from neuroscience.
And of course, aside from neuroscience, you also mentioned that you have your own experience of trauma. Now, we don't really have to go about it if you're not comfortable with it. But I suppose where I'm coming from is that you have really like an evidence-based knowledge about how the brain works. And apart from that, you also have your own experience. And I suppose that's really a unique blend when you kind of do your consultancy, when you do your own psychotherapeutic approach. So tell us a bit more about how the kind of consultancy that you've been involved with, and how has your knowledge about neuroscience and your experience come to kind of, shape the way you approach your consultancy?
Of course. I don't make any secrets about my private life. If you would have followed, specifically posts on LinkedIn, I have revealed a lot of information about myself, even on the profile, because I just feel, how can somebody else actually relate to me in that manner if I'm not willing to open that? Because that's right. That's what we ask our patients, our clients to do. So wherever I'm working in the corporate world, wherever I'm working with private clients, we want them to open up to us.
Absolutely.
We want them to trust us. How can I expect someone to trust me if I'm not projecting this trust, if I'm not willing to open up about this? So in order to make it happen, I just find it's very normal to talk about your personal experiences. There's nothing to hide about it, because one thing we cannot do, we cannot run away from our memories unless we have, severe brain injury and can't remember anything. But other than that, we can't run away from them. The more we try to push them away, or the more we try to run away from them, the more they will follow us. That's when all these, a lot of these conditions actually happen, derived from stress, depression, other mental health conditions, because we try to suppress them. So what my aim is, and I try to teach that or train that, project that to my clients as well as family members, friends, whoever I'm in contact with, is what you can do. The best way to deal with your memories, with your traumatic experiences, good, bad, whatever it is work alongside them. Then they're next to you. You can feel them, you can see them, you let them in and out of your life, but you do not let them affect or take over your life no more. That's the ultimate goal you want to get to. You have them next to you, like your friends who you don't like really, but you can't get rid of that, your friend, because he's been your lifelong friend, and you would feel bad about it, whatever feelings you may have. Or any kind of commitment. So you let them work alongside you. You say hello. You even ask them how they are, but you don't go into deep conversation. That's how it works. My personal traumatic experience is coming back to that now. As I said, a lot of that is already projected on social media. Started off with a very early age. I've suffered from various abuses, what you can even imagine. It comes from sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. It also goes into ostracism, where the family would actually not give you love or just disconnect from you. It then derives from previous abusive relationships. My child's been taken away and I had to fight it back. Been with unfortunately 2 long-term relationships. One's been very psychopathic and the other's been extremely narcissistic. And if you look at the traits of both of these conditions, these personality disorders, how they are, they can become very severe for the other person. But what I've discovered actually is, over the past 10 years during working in mental health, I always had this empathetic way, but I never understood where it came from. But working with in the mental health sector, actually, whilst helping other people, whilst providing this service and being part of improving their life, has actually helped me to heal myself. I started understanding myself better, which was a blessing, because suddenly I could project certain experiences, and I thought, yes, I have done that in that way. Does that relate to this? And when I then started pursuing my psychological career academically, that is when I could start putting the terms on these different behaviors, wherever they came from me, wherever they came from somebody else. I could understand them, why they're happening and how the pattern is, what is happening, and why am I acting a certain way? Why am I solution focused? And I found out me being a general empath, that's how I found my terminology of characteristics, has actually brought me or drawn these people towards me, because they have a certain need. And when they see someone who's naturally over caring, over protecting, wanting to heal you, then they are drawn to that. So now I had to work within myself, since I've been now separated, and I say that quite a few times. I feel actually it's the first time ever in my life I've been single from 24 years total worth of relationships. I felt so liberated. I feel at peace. I feel happy. I was suffering with a chronic fatigue syndrome, which no one could explain, any medic. And suddenly when I came out of that, it was gone. It was lifted and I felt light. I felt, even though there's still a few problems because of the lockdowns, practical things, but inside, I feel happy, I feel light, I feel fulfilled, I feel full of energy, and this extreme fatigue is gone. And that just derives back to neuroscience again, but emotional impact on yourself. And I also have found myself, I know who I am now. I know what I want. I know I'm an empath, and I have to work on my kind of boundaries as such. I have learned to say no. If somebody approaches me, I can say no, I'm not ready for that. I don't want to do that, or let's find another way. All these kind of things are learning curve. And I've also learned that over the years, because I've always been a very positive person, and I hope you can see my passion in that as well, that I always feel like I never guilt tripped anyone, or I never felt, why is this happening to me? This does not exist in me. Fear does not exist in me, because I've become very resilient to everything. That doesn't mean I haven't got emotions. I'm full of emotions and love. But I do not work with fear. I just work with the situation. And when I look at good things, bad things, I class them as good experiences or joyful experiences, and positive moments or events give you happiness and joy. And ultimately, negative experience and negative events and negative people, they give you life experiences. So you can never actually lose. You always gain and learn. And that's the person who I am today. I wouldn't have become the person probably, full of this hope and joy and positivity, if I may have not gone through these experiences. But that's not to say it excuses someone else's behavior or negative behavior. It just says that it has enriched me in my life to be able to perform and practice what I can do now. And that's the energy which I'm projecting to my clients as well, wherever I'm working with brain injury clients, wherever I'm working with private clients, wherever I'm working with cooperative businesses. As you know, I said, I'm a former diplomat and banker. I do have thorough knowledge of this business as well. But I like to class myself as, I would like to empower you to understand you, to get to your full potential. And that's what I enjoy the most. I just find joy in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really refreshing to hear how you've managed to, handle those early adverse life circumstances that you've experienced, the trauma, the abuse, and you use that actually to help other people. And you said that actually came, like it gave you the ability to be empathic to other people. And I suppose that's really a good trait of being a mental health professional, of being a psychologist. And another thing that I pick on what you said is that you mentioned something about resilience. And I think it's really important to talk about resilience, especially now because of the lockdown. Even before the lockdown, a lot of mental health professionals say that there's a mental health crisis going on. So I suppose as a psychologist, as a mental health professional, if you could discuss how resilience can help us promote positive mental health, so that we can kind of address the mental health crisis, if there's actually a crisis going on.
That it's right. There is a crisis coming on, and I do believe, a lot of other professionals do agree with me as well. The pandemic is hopefully almost past the severity of the pandemic, but what is coming up is now the mental health pandemic. It's a post-pandemic consequence which we have to deal with probably for a long period of time, where people are actually suffering from these consequences of this lockdown, because the lockdown came with social distancing, for instance. It didn't just come with loss, which is bad enough to lose someone and to see all these deaths and the helplessness and not knowing what to do, the chaos which has been going on. The most important thing, or the most fearful thing for somebody, is we have to go back to evolution. We are social beings. We're not born to be on our own. We're not born to be in solidarity. We're not born to be without any people, which is why we, create these kind of contacts. We have family, we have friends, we have we have love for each other, we have certain likes and dislikes for one or the other, we like our group identity, we like to be affiliated somewhere, we like kinship, all these kind of elements we love. And there's two things which derive from Darwin as well, even way before, but Darwin brought it to the forefront, is the natural and sexual selection. The natural selection would be kinship, where we're looking at people who are like-minded, like our family, who can move our human race actually forward within that little group where we're growing up with. And the other one is sexual selection, which is a very natural process. It's got nothing derogatory in there, where we're looking to create our next life, our next generation as such. We're attracted to someone else. It could be the same sex, it could be the other sex, it doesn't matter what it is. We are just naturally attracted to another person, whether it's romantically, whether it's just socially. We just love being in contact with someone. We just love talking to people. We just love socializing. We just love communicating. We love seeing other people. You just have to watch the film I Am Legend from Will Smith, and you will see how much of an impact even someone from such a high educational background with such intelligence struggle to be alone. We are not there to be alone. We're not lonely beings. And that's where it comes from, that the entire time of solidarity where we're not able to touch each other, we can't see people, we're very limited. A lot of people haven't even left the house. They're confined in their spaces, and often just talking to someone on the phone doesn't really help. I mean, we have a lot of technology now where we can talk to someone and watch them, the likes of Zoom, for instance, and other platforms, but it's still not the same. It's still a difference, because we do want to feel that person. We want to have the feeling of having that person near us. And that's where it comes from. A lot of things have derived from this loneliness, where stress comes about, where this unknown comes about. Yes, other economical things are there too, where people cannot cope financially, losing their job, losing their house, maybe family is not working together. All these kind of things are happening as well. But the main problem, I believe, comes from this social distancing. This is what we cannot cope. We can't go out on the road and just see someone. Just watching someone through the mask is obviously not the same. We all have to do that at the moment, just for the sake of safety. But it's not a natural way to be.
Absolutely, and just to tie it in with what we're talking about resilience. Basically, it's
sorry, I just went.
Oh, that's fine, because you absolutely address the question, like what you've said, that we're actually primed to socialize with other people. And actually, even resilience researchers, Anne Maston, for instance, Dr. Anne Maston in the 1980s, she actually highlighted the importance of social support as a way, as a source of resilience. Like what you've said, your friends, your family, these are social networks that are important for you to navigate any mental health crisis, and as a source of promoting resilience. Now, aside from resilience, I understand, because I went through your social media profile, and I understand that you also implement a lot of psychological toolkits. Aside from resilience, you also do mindfulness. So if you could just touch upon that and share to us, how can actually mindfulness help us, navigate the difficulties of mental health issues? And can you give us some tips if we're just starting to implement mindfulness?
Of course. We can't obviously always talk about strength, because again, it comes back to human nature. We're human beings. We need to be kind to each other. That's what it means. Self-kindness, it's of such importance. Often people forget, oh, looking after this one, looking after that one, or looking after your job, looking after your finances, your family, whoever that might be. We are forgetting in the process. Most people forget themselves. It's about self-care, being self-aware of your limitations, your strengths, what your needs are, what you're projecting, what you can give, your limitations, and then acting towards on it, and be kind to yourself. We all have to go through good and bad days. I'm not always a happy person. I can go through bad days, but my resilience then builds up from deriving from my personal experiences and past experiences. Is I allow myself to go through that bad time, and that's what I would advise my clients as well. And then grieve, have a sad time, let these emotions flow. It comes back to, if we're holding them back like our memories, we cannot run away from them. Let these emotions flow. Let your heart go through that. Let your mind process these things, and then move forward again. Then you will feel better. You step forward, you go ahead, and you just start the day again. Once dawn kicks in, dusk will always follow. That's what you have to remember. No matter what, happy times, bad times, good, sad times, it will always pass. So the more you were relying on a certain moment, the more we're actually slaves of the past, of a certain event, and we cannot move on. So the mindfulness itself is about being kind to yourself, being aware to yourself, to say, you know what, I'm not feeling that good. I'm going to take a break, or I'm overworking. Let me just take 5 minutes out. What do I like? Let me go in the nature and breathe in the air. I do my yoga every morning, which I thoroughly enjoy. I don't do the traditional yoga. I just take out some exercises which work for me, and I do that in the morning. I love it. It gives me mindful time for myself to recharge, regain, and then go back to take over the world again. So that's what mindfulness is about, being kind to yourself, being self-aware of who you are, love yourself, respect yourself, because as soon as you start doing these things, you then have enough energy to work in your environment, to help others, to do whatever you want to do. You would have more energy towards that. Because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to be like a Duracell battery where you're giving out. And there's one time when you haven't got no energy no more, and you are exhausted, and you will feel exhausted. The strongest of person will feel exhausted and will not understand where it comes from. It comes from, if you're not looking after yourself, you cannot look after somebody else to your full potential, or you cannot achieve things you want to do to your full potential. So that's what mindfulness means. Take care of yourself, take care of your environment, and be mindful of other people as well. That's another thing which comes on the top, is when you're mindful of yourself, you automatically look at your environment very differently. Instead of being frustrated, and that's a gradual process, it doesn't happen overnight, you start looking at other people like individuals, because we always have expectations towards other people, whether they're good or bad, that's irrelevant. Why cannot they be like this? I wish this one would act like this. That's expectations we're projecting to the other person. The time when we become mindful to ourselves and we become kind and more content within ourselves, we will actually eliminate or reduce these expectations towards somebody else. And then that somebody else will not affect us in any way, or affect us less than before, because we do not have these expectations. We accept them as they are. And then we can make a choice. Okay, I don't really like that person in my inner circle. What can I do about it? I don't have to be disconnecting from that person. I can be civil to that person, but let me not let them enter my life or take over my life emotionally. So mindful works on both ways, understanding yourself and then understanding your environment.
Thank you, Shafaq, for sharing to us the importance of mindfulness and self-care. Now, it's definitely important whether you're working in another industry, not just within the mental health sector. But one thing I want to ask is, you definitely make good use of your experience and also of your background in psychology to set up your own counseling and psychological practice, and you've also become a consultant and a diplomat, as you've said. Now, a lot of people who would be watching this would love to follow your footsteps, but they don't have an idea. How do I start setting up my own psychological practice? So if you could just share to us some of the tips, how to navigate setting up your own psychological practice, and what can we learn from your own experience, doing consultancy work and being a diplomat?
Of course, it would be my pleasure. I mean, one thing I do have to say, I haven't got my own practice at this point, because I firmly believe you do have to do your homework before you can do that. There's a lot of counselors around who are, because there's no regulations in place. Once you have a certain degree or a certain diploma in the mental health sector, you can act and practice as a counselor. You can act and practice as assistant psychologist. You can act and practice as a psychotherapist, as long as you have these requirements in place. I do have these requirements in place through my psychology degree, but and that might be just my German mind as such, or corporate mind, however you want to call it. I like to have the full package. I don't like to go the halfway. So I like to complete my PhD, my doctorate, become a fully qualified consultant, be registered with HCPC. I'm already registered with BPS and APA, which are both accreditation organization, as a psychologist, as a therapist. But in order to get the full package, which I believe I should have, which is why I'm giving a lot of offering a lot of free counseling, volunteering counseling at the moment, is just to protect myself as well as the other side. I want to expand my practice in that way that there would be nothing left to object for anybody. At least not academically. I do bring a lot of experience in place, but academically, I don't want to have anything where someone could raise something, because the last thing you want to do is someone going against your reputation. Is, as we know, in a lot of field, in my one as well, it's very difficult to restore a reputation if something is damaged. So I'm just not taking any risk in that sense. I take a lot of risk, but not risk which are maybe just unnecessary. If I can go around them and eliminate them, then why should I not do that? So the full career as such, if you want to do that, I would say just keep on using opportunities. Just look for opportunities wherever you get them, whatever you want to be. My philosophy has always been, I've never treated anyone different. It could be the road sweeper, and I met some high profile people in my life throughout my career. It could be from presidential candidates to politicians to celebrities, all sorts of people you could actually think of. But I don't lose myself in that. I don't get starstruck, no matter who is in front of me. And it could also be from background. It doesn't even have to be social status. It could be black, brown, blue, yellow. It could be a person who's maybe who has mobility issues, anything. Anybody stands in front of me, I look at the person and then I analyze, do I like that person? I don't. And I think that's the approach which has actually brought me forward, although it gave me, I had to run against a lot of resilience towards that, because a lot of people do not like to put themselves into no category. They want to belong somewhere. That's what we are, social beings. We want to belong and identify ourselves somewhere. But maybe because of my past experiences where I have been put outside the box of been forced to look at things outside of the box. I actually don't class myself as a certain culture or category or box as such. I class myself as a human being who has certain ancestry, who has certain backgrounds, and I embrace them all. I embrace the good things about them. I embrace the good things in English culture. I embrace the good things in German culture. I embrace the good things from my background in Asian culture. I lived also in Egypt, for instance, for a while and throughout my diplomatic service. Embrace their good things in their culture, leave out the bad bits. And that's how I formed my own culture. That's how I formed my own mindset, which I also then passed on to my children. Even my children, the word of color, race, where they come from does not exist. That might be a topic of, when we're discussing about, this person comes from that part of the country or so on. But other than that, it does not exist. They look at you and they decide, do I like that person or I don't? That's where you go from. And I think if you have that kind of approach, and then the element of not having fear, you just go for things, try them out, see how it goes. If it goes bad, you learn from that. It's life experiences. That's how you go on, and that's how you would fulfill what you want to do. You work to your full potential only if you're actually not complication for yourself or someone who's holding you back. If you're not holding yourself back, the sky is your limit. You can go anywhere you want, which is why I'm projecting all of these posts as well. It's all in your mindset. You reprogram your brain, no matter what you've been conditioned to from your parents, from your environment, from your childhood, from your experiences. You reprogram your brain. You're in charge of your brain. You're in charge to tell yourself what you can do and what you can't.
Yeah, that's really a helpful advice for those people who want to, just start with their own practice or want to get onto doing a degree in psychology or counseling or even psychotherapy. Thank you. I think it's really important that you kind of, like what you've said, you have to treat people according to who they are, and just to put your prejudice away. It's really, I think prejudice is really inevitable. It's part of human nature. But if it begins to cloud your judgment, it affects the way you treat your people. You have to think twice. It's not healthy for you, and obviously it's not healthy for the way you interact with people. Now, I think we also have to talk about this, Shafaq, because we have a common denominator, and that is APA. You mentioned about APA. I've it's not a secret that I've interviewed Dave Sleet and Siobhan Crosby on DRH. So they're actually one of my first ever guests on this podcast. So just for those who are not familiar about APA, could you just share to us what APA is? Because like what you've mentioned, there's only a few psychological and counseling bodies we're familiar with. The BPS, the BACP, and the UKCP. And it seems like APA is like a new kid in the block. So if you could just share to us what APA is.
Absolutely. As you've rightfully mentioned, APA is an accreditation company. They are offering the same things what British Psychological Society is offering, BACP, which is for a British Association for Counsellors and Counselling and Psychotherapists. All these kind of different accreditation companies, organizations. They give you a certain, I would say it's not a certificate, but it's a acknowledgement that you've done a certain degree, you've done a certain level of experiences, and then you can be recognized for that. And that's what APA is doing. But the difference with APA itself is everything what I talked about represents APA, which is why I'm so fascinated with APA, which is why I actually been in such close contact with Dave Sleet and Siobhan Crosby. I just found myself with them, to be honest. It's been such a delight, actually. I first got in contact with Dave not too long ago, and I'm very pleasantly surprised of the power of social media, as I'm very new on social media, how to actually connect people who you would never actually really see on the road, in your normal life, unless you go to a certain event. So I have a Twitter account from the past few months, and Dave Slee did comment on my Twitter account. And what I've been doing, as you know, I'm part of Mental Health Change. Mental Health Change is an organization which also represents all these values and this need, this dedication to change the broken mental health system, to implement positive changes, positive mental health. So there's a project which I'm running, which has been founded by Alistair Deards, who's the founder of Mental Health Change. But that project needed to go to the next level. We needed to bring it forward because there were a few things missing. Framework was missing. Other things were missing. So because I'm very good in networking, I believe so, from my diplomatic sector. I used to be a head of procurement in there. I used to supply the embassies around the world with luxury interior goods for their specific events, where you would think, oh, it's 3rd of October, Independent Day, that's the theme in that country. So I go over and create a budget, give out tenders, I look for high luxury companies and then supply for that event. It could be luxury china, crystal, interior design, anything you could think of. So because of that, I created a lot of network. At that time, social media wasn't present, so I had to go out and create these networking groups through going out on trade fairs and making these connections. And by the time I was working, within a year, I knew every CEO, every managing director, every owner of those kind of companies who I needed to connect with. So I knew I was good in that. But once Dave contacted me through a post, I looked at his bio and I thought, that looks interesting. And I contacted him. I contacted, besides him, a few others as well who I'm networking with, but I contacted him and I just summarize what I'm doing with that project and how I want to create changes. And we're looking to collaborate with other companies and we're looking to bring it forward. And he found that interesting. So he put it forward to his company. And it just went from there. And we've became friends. I've became friends with Siobhan. They're both wonderful people to work with. And because we're so similar in our morals, in our ways, how we want to do things, how we want to help, it just brought everything forward. And I thought, I want to work with them together closely, even in future projects. I do want to make create this kind of special connection with them, because I believe they actually fulfill my morals. They fulfill or reflect what I believe in. And that's exactly what they created. They created an organization full of people who actually have very similar views in how they want to impact the world, how they want to change, how they actually finding the entire system, how they want to implement improvement in people's life. That's what APA is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we talk about APA and Dave and Siobhan, I think I'd like to take this opportunity to say to everyone that actually they're speaking at a virtual conference that I'm organizing in October. I'll put the link on the description box. You've actually just shared how wonderful Dave and Siobhan is, and I can attest to that. Just like you, I've met them through social media, and it's just so funny because we're just like we live not a few miles from each other. We both live in East London, and it's just so funny that of all places, because we both work in mental health sector, you would imagine that somehow we would meet along the way on one of those events, but it's social media that also kind of led our paths to meet each other. Now, another thing that I want to ask you, Shafaq, is that obviously you've been working in the field of psychology for quite some time, and so you've been exposed to a number of trends within psychology and mental health. But is there any emerging trends in mental health that you're excited about?
Yes, they are. I personally find traditional theories and approaches in the therapeutic sector, they're good, but they're more of a tool of diagnosing people rather than actually the treatment of people. Because you have to remember that my understanding is, and I can see that with APA itself as well, very much similar understanding is when we're going to a doctor for a medical condition, whether it's a heart condition or we have a flu or we have a virus or we have broken leg, we would not expect the doctor just to send us home and ignore us, or treat us for something else, or just give us some advice on which is very unhelpful and does not actually help us as such. We want him to give us some medicine. We want him to give us some specific person-centered advice, which is just individual towards us, rather than just generalizing everything and not doing anything about it. That's exactly what mental health is about as well. And what I want to bring forward is bringing mental health out as a condition to be treated exactly the same like a medical condition. That is how we actually remove the stigma from mental health, being the alien, being the hysteric one, being something abnormal which we can't understand, because it's very normal. People think mental health is something if somebody is just running around mad, he can't understand anything and he's misbehaving or becoming very violent. No, it doesn't have to be that way. We all are affected by our mental health. Mental health is a balance, the same like medical health. If we cannot restore that balance, or if we cannot maintain that balance and sustain that balance, along the way there will be problems. Every one of us suffers in some form of way of stress. That is a form of mental health. A lot of people don't actually understand that this is all to do with mental health. It doesn't have to be a severe depression. It's stress, it's fear, it's excitement, it's grief, it's isolation. It could be financial problems. Everything has to do with mental health. Everything has to do with our mental well-being. So if we don't take care of that, it will then impact on our physical health, which then is a vicious circle. It just goes round and round and round. If we deal with something long enough, then it just becomes normal for us. So to break that barrier, mental health should be implemented to everyone as something which is treated as a medical condition. So coming back to your question, I just forgotten your question. What did you ask?
I think are you looking forward to any emerging trends in mental health?
Yes.
I think
I was saying about psychotherapy and humanistic therapy. That's where I wanted to actually come back to, which is why I was explaining all of this, that I want to put, and that's where I'm excited about, everyone should be treated as an individual. And to treat someone as an individual, you have to center yourself towards that person. So you have to focus your attention to that individual person. Yes, you do use certain theories, but I do like psychodynamic theories following with humanistic theories, humanistic approaches, which are very much there to help the individual. So they're not just there to diagnose the person, they're there to assess the entire situation of that person, the presence, the past, the environment, any kind of connection, and then try to make sense from one to another. So it's like wiring one thing to another, forming one thing to another, rather than leaving anything out. And once you build this connection, once you build this roadmap as such, then you can start working on, okay, let's work on this one, let's work on this approach, and let's see how this impacts the other one. So what I'm excited about besides that is I love social psychology. The reason being is again human behavior. It's behavioral science, how people project, how people act. I've even written a dissertation on. I'm a big fan of Amy Cuddy, a social psychologist, where I've written about non-verbal behaviors. So something which you're actually not talking, but you can see it in your posture, you can see it in your facial impression, you can see it in your body language and everything like this. But because social psychology is more research-based, it's not really used in practice apart from their theories, which can be used in practice. That is why I'm pursuing the counseling career as such, and I would like to do a doctorate in that as well, in neuropsychology, where I can actually implement some of these things which I've learned through social psychology and create these approaches within certain theories which I would be applying on clients in the humanistic way, in the psychodynamic way, in non-verbal postures. How much of an impact can that actually have, not just on somebody else, but also on yourself, on your own mental well-being, the way how you sit, for instance, the way how you look at people, wherever you have eye contact, wherever you're sitting wide, wherever you're sitting enclosed, wherever you have your head down, wherever you had your head up, how you're looking, if you're smiling at somebody, if you're being grunty at somebody, if you're distrusting somebody. All these kind of things have such an impact on our behavior, on our mind, on our health, on everything. So that's what I would like to do. I would ideally create a whole framework of practice.
Absolutely. And Shafaq, you've obviously been, like what I've said, you've done a lot of things, especially, trying to promote positive mental health, especially through your social media profiles. You really exude positivity. But what's the most important thing you want the people to know about you and the work that you do? What's the big message from Shafaq?
The big message is that I am a big empath. I understand myself and I want to empower you. That's the big message. I want you to grow up to your own potential. That's what I tell my son, for instance, as well, when he's doing his exams, for instance. I never expect him to do the best. That's very important to point that out. I never expect him to do the best. I tell him that as well. I want him to do his best, regardless on what it is. As long as I know he does his best, that's good enough for me. So that's what I want to project to people, to know that that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you to be the best you can be in your own life, to understand your own mind to your full potential, to live up to your own full expectations, not to somebody else, not to compare to somebody else. Be an individual to yourself. Be honest to yourself, be truthful to yourself, because everything else will come into place. Everything will fall into place. People will be drawn to you if you know who you are, if you understand yourself, if you love yourself. You will know, people will know who you are. They would want a piece of you because they can feel the energy. That's what I want people to know. I want them to know that I can empower you. I can make you understand your mind. I can make you take over your mind and be in control of whatever you want to be in control with, whatever you want to achieve, wherever it's school, wherever it's your career, wherever it's your company. I can go into a company and create a environment and a strategy which could bring the company to the top, as long I believe in the ethical manner of the company. It has to be something which I believe in as well. But I can bring you to the top. to your own abilities. That's what I want people to know, because that's the only way to then project your own kindness and project your own strengths. Be aware of your limitations, of your weaknesses. Whatever it is, you can work with that. Be fearless.
That's really one powerful message, straight from Shafaq. Now, I could imagine you have a very stressful lifestyle because you're dealing with different types of people. So how do you relax? What's your distressing outlet?
I mean, first of all, I would say it depends how you look at this lifestyle. When I absorb people's griefs and people's pains, I don't absorb them, even though I project myself as I'm doing so, because people do believe, oh, she is just here for me. That's how I want to project to people. She's just here for me. She wants to hear everything what I have to say. She's a great listener. She wants to help me. She wants to protect me. She wants to heal me. That's how I put myself out there. But ideally, I'm forgetting the question. I'm sorry. I get so excited in my talk.
Now, how do you relax? How do you relax?
Yes, how do I relax?
Yeah.
So I don't get stressed by people's stories, because I've turned that around to a perspective where I feel revived. I feel actually full of joy. If I can see someone's progress in life and I can see how it is actually changing their life, that is a healing moment for me. That is something which gives me so much joy. But besides that, I do my hobbies. I do, go out. I do my walking in the park when it's good weather. I do my yoga every morning, which I thoroughly enjoy. I do some breathing techniques, which I also talk about to my clients and other people with. So all these kind of things are there to relax. I love going out for a coffee with a friend. It's beautiful. Just having a chit chat. So all these little things are there, and I don't forget them because I'm very persistent. If I take you on in my heart, and I tell you I take you on in my heart, that means you're in my heart fully. So I will be on you, whether you like it or not. I will be creating coffee dates with you. I would be creating little fun moments, or let's go out in the theater, all these kind of things. So I'm just very sociable, but very open in that too. So if I take you on, I take you on with my full mind and enjoy. Just enjoy. These are enjoyable moments for me.
Absolutely. And Shafaq, what do you think you would be doing if you didn't work as a psychologist?
I think I would be a humanistic, I don't know if there's any title for that. Wherever I go, even if I was to stay in the diplomatic sector, what I was doing there was helping actually the local staff in the residence for the ambassador, as well as the local staff in the embassy. Local staff which are not diplomatic, which are not hired by the foreign service, which are there to do their duties in that country for that company. So I was helping them with their new uniforms. If they needed help for other things, which I could do within my limits in my work, I was helping them too. So I just like to work to my full potential. That is why my message is out there. Help to your full potential, or work to your full potential. Whatever you do, just excel. So if I was in the diplomatic sector, I had exact plans what I wanted to go, which position I wanted to go up to, and how I would be preparing for my pension, for instance, for my life, for instance. So I just like to excel everywhere I am, whether I'm even working in the voluntary sector. And that is why I'm pushing the P555 project so much forward, because I like to excel. I want to complete it to whatever I can complete it, and without actually thinking of I haven't given the full capabilities. I haven't given it the full push what I could do. So wherever I would go, I think I would put my full heart into that, and I get on with it.
Brilliant. And finally, Shafaq, what else is in the pipeline? I understand that you have plans to pursue your doctorate. But other than that, do you have any big things coming on? And if people wanted to reach out to you, what platforms can they get in touch with you at? I understand you're on LinkedIn, but is there any other such social media platforms they can reach out to you?
Of course. The very important thing at the moment is my P555 project from Mental Health Change, which we're trying to implement and bring it forward, because that's something which will help the mental health system, not that just in the UK. If it's established here, then it can bring help towards other countries globally as well. It's something which is lacking at the moment because there's nothing around which can actually provide immediate help, immediate response for mental health. Just in mental health, especially in this crisis where people have to wait long or they're not suitable for something, we want to give them the opportunity to reach out and seek help and seek professional help. So that's my biggest project at the moment, which I'm doing, and I'm so passionate about that. But besides that, bear in mind, I'm very new on social media. It's only been a few months. My strongest platform is LinkedIn at the moment, which I've increased quite a lot. I've built up quite a huge or strong, I would say, fan base as such, with some very, very well-known people. But I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, so everywhere spread out, but there's not too much contact about, especially YouTube. I've only opened a week or 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying to organize that in a better way. But there will be ways where on YouTube especially, where people would be able to go through a program online. Because of these circumstances we're in, I can't offer that face-to-face, but I would be creating various programs. You're welcome to have a look on that already. There's a few videos up there. Where I would be creating certain programs for two parts. One would be private clients, one would be the cooperative business world, where they would have a package of how to work and promote positive mental well-being in their place, wherever workplace or personal life, and how you can work from one to another, how you can actually create these small changes to get where you want to get. Yes, my ultimate goal is not that you wake up tomorrow and you get a magical pill there and you're fine. That's not how it works. It works step by step. It works step by step, understanding yourself, understanding your brain, understanding your environment, and then take gradual improvements to move forward. And even changing about your own fears, which is our biggest barrier at the moment for most people. Because of this fear, they cannot move forward. And once they overcome this fear factor, that's when changes will occur, and that's when you can just create whatever you want to create.
Yeah, those are exciting projects, and what I'll do is I'll put a link to all those projects that you've mentioned so everyone can learn more about your work. Well, Shafaq, it's a pleasure having you here on the DRH show, but unfortunately we ran out of time. But it's really a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for sharing to me a snippet of your life as a psychologist and as a mental health professional. I look forward to hearing more about your work. Thank you.
Of course, it would be lovely to work with you again. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.